Hello friends and welcome to Led's Lap Guides. If you are newer to these guides, we'll be utilizing our very own Apex visualizer that you see here to give you that overhead view that will help you shave those tents off by showing you the optimal racing line through each corner. So often our racing lines just aren't quite as precise as they need to be, so here we're trying to give you that extra edge. Whether you want to watch this whole video or just focus on a corner or two that's giving you trouble, these two lap guides are your resource for this week to use however you need to get you the best time possible. First off, this week, GT7 has gifted us with Group 3 cars at Nurburgring, but on the short course this time. Our go-to here is the Ferrari, which also seems to be the dominant force in the top 100. There is time to lose all over this short circuit. Opening up the steering on corner exit as early as you can really is a big focus. Because number one, it can really scrub some speed if you are over rotating the steering wheel in a couple spots. It can really wreck your lap, and not only that, if you're over rotating in some spots, because of how bouncy the Ferrari can be, you can really lose the car completely. For race C, we've been given Group 2 at Autopolis. Personally, I think this is a match made in racing heaven. It's a nice wide track, long sweeping corners with racing softs on. Now it should be noted that because of how fast these tires warm up, your first two laps on the track are pretty much all you get. Every time I got my best time, it was actually on my first lap. The second lap, I could really feel the grip going away. So for your sessions, it might be wise to just do 2 laps and then restart. Also on this guide, be a lookout for turn 1 guides on lap 1 if you happen to be starting towards the front of the pack on both tracks. And also, I have a pit entrance guide for you at Autopolis. All told, we managed to get a top 150 time in the world for both of these tracks this week, and I'm quite happy with that. And without further delay, let's see how we break these corners down. Turn 1 at Nurburgring Sprint Circuit. All right, so we're at the braking point here. My braking point for this spot, with these tires at least, normally, when it's either Group 4 or stickier compounded tires, you can be closer to the 100, but I'm not seeing it. Not seeing it right now with this this tire combination. Long term, we need to plan on braking hard and deep. So you do want to, oops, that was the wrong button there. You do want to brake as late as you can, but you need to brake as much of a straight line as possible. The track actually does curve a little bit there, so got to watch out to not be on the grass by accident. But you're planning on going deep. You're planning on turning late. You're planning to get the car well rotated, so that by the time you hit that little dip that's right there, and your right tires really want to be either on that curb or really close to that inner curb, so that once the car compresses down on that dip, that's when you hit the throttle. Probably not fully. No full throttle yet. Get on the throttle, get some grip, and then work your way up to full throttle from there. So what that line looks like on the actual track is braking hard in a straight line here, banging down the gears down to second. As you turn in, go down to first, and you're really trying to get this angle right here, okay? So what's going to be tempting, let's look at the visualizer one more time. What's going to be tempting is to apex too early, like to clip the curb right here or even here, but you really want to be this wider line so that right at this point your car is kind of pointed towards your exit already. If you do that right there by itself, that's going to be really helpful because it's going to limit the power oversteer and it's going to limit the possibility of going too wide on exit. So back to the track for that exit then. Hit the compression on the throttle, exit in second, and then out you go like that, okay? All right, so here on this particular part, there's a little dab of the brake, maybe a little, for some cars, maybe just a lift. It's possible. I like to just tap the brakes for a second, but I want to get a nice late apex. The line could be something similar to this right here. Let's go ahead and open that up a little bit. So yeah, a little bit like this, where we're decelerating through this part, and we end up going down to first gear right about here. That's what I'm doing. There might be some that are capable of tightening the car enough without using first. That's not me. In order for me to make sure that I clip this apex, I've got to get on first. Yeah, so that's really what we're trying to do. I'm trying to be on the throttle in this area right here. It is so easy to go way too wide, so even when you're on the throttle this early, modulate the throttle so that you don't end up going way wide, okay? So what that looks like on the actual track, this line here then is just like this, letting the car scream at you, go down to first, and you're gonna feel it and you're gonna see it. The car is just gonna kick in really nicely so that you can get on the throttle by right about this point, and then work away. Now go ahead and plan to be in this vicinity right here, okay? Honestly, that's what you got to do. I don't see any other way around it, to be perfectly honest. To me, this sequence right here is one of the most effective at showing people some of their weaknesses when it comes to cornering. I see this a lot here, and it's very glaring. So let's talk about this section here. We're going to look at it like this. Now, this obviously isn't a perfect representation of what's going on, but it really does give us a really good idea of what's going on. So we're trying to take this wider entrance, and the only difference is that we're gonna go over the line. You know, factors in actual track limits. So for our purposes, though, we want to be over this line, having the left tires well beyond the curb widthwise. Okay, and then we're going to point the car out this direction. We're going to face it out here, and then turn it, and then lift, and then on the throttle no later than the apex. Okay, so let's see what that looks like on the actual track. So on the brakes hard. Now look, with these tires, this is I've found it very difficult to consistently do what I know I want to do here. So if you guys are struggling with this, don't feel bad. So am I. Okay, so what's happening here is we're getting down to first gear, and our objective is to use brake balance to the rear to get this extra rotation here, so that we end up clobbering this just like that. I mean, we really want our right tires onto the curbing. Okay, we get on the throttle right about here, and we point the car to the roller coaster in the distance. You see that in the distance, right? So that's what we're trying to do. We got to get this angle. We already got on the throttle earlier. Now we're full throttle. We turn over, and now we lift right in this section here. We lift, okay? I like to stay in second for this part because it gives me a little extra, with more wheel spin, it gives me an extra rotation on exit. And then if I happen to start slipping, which happens quite often on the exit of this corner, I bump it up to third. So lifting and then on the throttle, making sure that I get a bunch of this apex. At this area, I'm planning to be way out wide here, and I'm waiting for the power oversteer to happen. And then once, if that really starts to happen, I'll go ahead and short shift to third to kind of gain traction again and not lose it too much, okay? So for this turn here, this is my braking point for this hairpin. What we're going to be doing here on this turn is a double apex, nearly identical to the line we're trying to do. So we're braking in a straight line, and then as we turn, we're going to start trailing off the brake. So 100% brake briefly, and then we're going to trail off the brake pressure, okay? And get close to this first apex. You don't necessarily have to clip the curbing. The idea is to keep it tighter for this first part, then let the car go out a little wide, barely any, like no wider than the middle of the width of the track, right? Slow, and this is where you're at your slowest. That's the key part. So you decelerate through this first apex. Don't be at your slowest here, here, here. Now, be at your slowest right here. And being slower there is going to get the car to rotate the rest of the way that you need. You can start to apply the throttle, work your way up to full throttle, clip the second apex, and out you go. That's how that works, okay? So that line right here then, down the gears, second, first, be at your widest right about here. Get the car to turn this way, up in second, clip the second apex, and then out you go this way. Grab the visualizer once again. So it's a 90-degree, just open, a little more open than a 90-degree turn. So this is how we're handling this one. It's actually just a quick blip of the brakes right here, and yanking the steering over to the left, downshifting to second gear. You do all that in basically one fluid moment right here. Make sure that you're clipping the apex late. Don't apex too early in this vicinity here. Get yourself a nice wide entrance so that you can be on the throttle in this area, and then when you're on the throttle, you actually accelerate through the apex. Now, I will say you don't want to track out too wide because there's an immediate right-hander coming up, okay? That's really critical. I found that if I really stomped on it here and then my momentum carries me, you know, to the outside of the track up there, it just really, it's slower because I have to spend so much time getting back over to the other side of the track. Now, speaking of the other side of the track, let's look at the other turn in this sequence. So this turn is just a little bit over 90 degrees. And so in the actual line, so we're coming over from this side. You see that there? We're coming from this side. You're coming over here. And probably, actually, let's widen that entrance even more, because really it's more like that. We're trying to get the car way over here, downshift to second once again, and definitely apply some minimal braking and stay on the brakes longer than you might think. It's really easy to coast. If you're having trouble with this part of the corner right here, it's probably because you've let off the brake too soon. I noticed I was doing the same thing for a bit until I finally said, I need to stay trail braking, minimal, 20-25% braking pressure, wait for the car to really turn so I can get on the throttle right here, and then once again accelerate through the apex, okay? What that looks like on the actual track then is we're getting the car nice and wide right here. We shift down to second, up to third, accelerate through this apex, modulating the throttle so that we're no wider than this curb right here. That's what I mean by not tracking out too wide on this part, okay? Then we get the car back over to the left, and on this, as there's this extra little brown patch on the grass here, when I see that right ahead of me, that's when I hit the brakes and go downshift to second, and I get this nice wide entrance. And then right here, I'm back up to third. I've been braking at least somewhat, all the way to this point, and then I'm on the throttle. Then I accelerate through the apex, clipping the curb, and then out we go. Typically, with other tire compounds, I've been braking at the 100, and for these tires, I've been braking at this brown patch right here. This is where I start to brake. Let's break out the chicane apex visualizer. Okay, so here we have a really good look at what this chicane looks like. So we are braking heavy in a straight line, and then once we get to the turn-in point, we turn in kind of open a little bit later, but we're really trying to destroy this first apex. For this chicane, you've got to straighten out the steering as much as possible. If we're not doing that, then we're going to have a bad time. That's pretty much all there is to do. All to deal with it. So we're straightening out so that we clobber this apex, get the car settled, and importantly, don't keep turning left at this part. After you go over this bump, if you continue turning left too much, the car is going to bounce and it's going to be unsettled, and you're going to really miss this second apex here. So straighten the steering as soon as you get past this first, and then transfer the weight onto the left side of the car so that then you can clip this portion of the apex, clip it. You're really destroying it again, and out you go. So what that looks like on the track, and look, I understand this is a little more difficult to apply. You can understand it, but execution is really difficult. So braking in a straight line down to first right here. Plan to clobber all of this apex. Now you straighten the wheel, okay? So you're straight after you've gone over those bumps. You have the center of the car pointed right at that bollard up ahead. That's what you got to aim for. Back on the throttle fully, clobber it. As you go over the bump, lift off the throttle just minimally to make sure that the car is stable. And then back on the throttle. Monitor that you don't go too wide here. And you're out in second, by the way. And that brings us to the final turn. Now, this turn is tricky because sometimes I feel like we think it's a shorter turn than it really is. But to be honest, it's almost 90 degrees. I mean, sorry, it's almost a 180-degree turn. So it's kind of a long time. You know what I mean? So we're looking at this turn kind of like this. So that we're braking in a straight line. We begin to turn, and we trail brake all the way through here and get on the throttle, trying to get on the throttle middle of the corner. We should be at our slowest at the middle of the corner. And then once again, we can accelerate through the apex, carrying lots of speed for two reasons. One, that's going to help you to defend in race. It's going to help you to catch in race. And it's also going to be the best way to get the best time. Consequently, if you're just starting a lap or you're in the middle of a session and you know that lap, it's not good, go ahead and take it a little bit wider. Be out here and then come in, be on the throttle a little sooner than mid-corner, because then you can carry more speed and have a better shot at a good time the next time around, okay? What that looks like on the actual track. We're at third, we're down to second, down to first, up to second for a moment there, and out we go. And that's a lap guide at Nurburgring Sprint Circuit. If you are starting towards the front of the grid, your turn in and your braking point's going to change a little bit. So I advise braking at the imaginary 75 board. Now, we talked about how there can be some real carnage on this track at turn 1. So what I really want to emphasize is braking in a straight line through here. That's your braking point, and I encourage you, just plan on being a little wider. Just go ahead and be out here, okay? If you plan on being out there, you can still carry good speed through there, and it might be the right strategy to help you not get destroyed turn 1 on lap 1, if that makes sense. Okay, so lap guide here. Basically, we're braking just as the 100 meter passes. Maybe we're braking like just past the orange little flag there, orange part of the barrier. Let's talk about turn 1. Turn 1 is a tricky little booger because it's got negative camber. There's no banking to help us. It's actually that little bit of a downhill. So you have to let the car roll around, make sure that the outside tires really have some solid grip, and then get on the throttle. I'm trying to maintain like 75 miles per hour at the apex, but let's take a look at this. Let's go ahead and widen it just a little bit. So this is the type of trajectory we're trying to accomplish here, okay? So big braking zone, bash down the gears, down to third, down to second in this region. Try and get on the throttle just before mid-corner and accelerate through the apex. And we accelerate in third. So what that looks like in the actual track, down to third, right here, down to second, turning in with these tire marks, okay? You see those, right? And then up to third here, and then on the throttle right at this spot, okay? So the braking spot for here is imaginary 70 board. It's usually we're using the access road that's back there. These cars are crazy when they brake, so we can brake later. and if you can really benefit from it. So this whole sequence right here, the right turn, the 2 lefts, and then the hairpin after that. So let's talk about how we want to attack all of these in a row. You really are trying to attack it like this. So braking in a straight line, turning late. We'll talk about that turn-in point in a moment. Down to second, getting on the throttle. I like to exit in second because that extra wheel spin seems to give me more rotation. Get on the throttle earlier than you might think is possible. Try it. It might really work. Then the next couple turns. So the next couple turns, we'll look at that. We'll just do those on the actual track. So let's look at how this works. So down to third, we're turning with these tire marks here, okay? Down to second, and really decelerating through this apex to get on the throttle right now. Okay, actually, it's more like middle of the apex. No later than now, right here. Get on the throttle, out in second. Third if you'd rather do that. Your momentum will carry you just like this. You're up to third. And then this is really key. I watched the top replay, and this is what he was doing. He's in third, he hits the brakes, and then as he gets to here, goes down to second. And what second gear does is it prevents you from going too wide to the right and losing time. So that's how it would look. So you can stay tight over here like this. Back up to third, clip this second apex. And that's how you would do that. Real quick, also, we're kind of treating this like a double apex, even though it's kind of 2 turns. So that means we need to be at our slowest. We actually need to be at our slowest right about here. A little bit before the middle part of these 2 corners, okay? Now the hairpin is a beast of a corner. So let's take a look at the visualizer here. Okay. Only difference is because of the previous turn, you're starting more right here, but you're still braking in a straight line, decelerating really fast, clipping this first apex. Go ahead and you can widen a little bit. Try not to go too deep, too wide. Be at your slowest right around here and start to be on the throttle here. Wait to get on full throttle. Let the car turn and try to be on full throttle before you hit the second apex over here, if possible. It's not always possible. So what that looks like on the track, through here, down to second, down to first, getting the car to rotate, being no wider than this, and then on the throttle right here. The straighter you can get the car on this part, the better. It's gonna be so much easier on your life if you wait for the car to straighten up before you get full throttle. Yeah, I'm still having trouble doing it myself. So we're coming in wide. We want to be wide and tighten. This is just a dab of the brake, a little bit of a lift. Depends on how you're feeling. I think either way can do it. I don't think there's any one right way in that regard because you're right in the middle of a gear shift between third and fourth. The key is start wide, narrow up, get on the throttle mid-corner, clip the curbing, and then out you go. That's really what's critical here, okay? On the actual track, that looks like this. So a little bit of fourth out here, then down to third. Let the gearing suck you in, and then clip this curbing. Out you go. You can exit in fourth. That seems to be fine. The Apex Visualizer can help us a lot here, so let's look at this together. So we're going for this nice wide. We plan to go deep. We plan to go wide. Plan to get the car pointed. So braking heavily in a straight line. Get the car rotated all the way around. And then you're at your slowest right here. You're really, the key about this hairpin, be decelerating all the way around, okay? Don't be at your slowest here. Attempt to be at your slowest right here before you clip the apex. Gently apply some throttle, get the car to point in the direction you need, and then out you go on exit, okay? What that looks like here then, third, second, first, coming around just like that. Up to second, clip the apex, gently apply throttle until you can get to full throttle safely. Okay, This one is a quick dab of the brake at the 50-meter board. Maybe just as you clip the 50-meter board. This is a little bit more open than a 90-degree turn. And this is critical. So the car is nuts. The downforce is crazy on this car, right? And this is where the downforce really shines. I was vastly underestimating what the car could do. I started hitting the apex when I first started in the 1-teens. Then I saw the fastest lap in the world, and he was at 128. So I'm not doing no 128, but I am in the 122, 123 region. And keeping the speed high actually benefits because the car is getting slammed down so heavily, okay? Now, looking at the visualizer here, you see how you're getting most of the turning done before the apex. That's really critical. Downshift to 4th, get the car to turn, and I want you to really yank the steering over to the right. The car will respond. It really, really will, okay? So make sure that you get it turned around like that on the throttle no later than mid-corner, and then plan to go a little wide on the exit. On the actual track then, yanking it over, clipping, tapping the brakes, getting the car to rotate on the throttle, accelerate through the apex, plan to be out here. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and keep going with this part right here, because this is a flowy section. You're in 4th gear, and I want you to turn with these tires. This feels late. I totally agree with you. I know you're saying it. This is way late of a turn. But you really want to be this late because of how long the turn is. You need this wide entrance to carry the most speed through. Actually, we can look at the visualizer real quick. Let's do that briefly. So that's really what we're trying to do here, is stay out wide, wide, 3rd gear, in this vicinity, get the car to rotate the rest of the way. Once you see that the car is tightening, back up to 4th and on the throttle, and out you go. Okay? That's how that looks. Okay, so 4th down to 3rd. You should be way out here and then be tightening. As you feel the car tighten, back up to 4th, you clip this part of the apex. Wide in this entrance, just like this, stay in 4th, clip this apex. All right, and now we're going to look at this part right here, okay? So we're going to treat this as a double apex, like one turn, okay? Braking point is pretty much, for me, is like when I have the car straight and I can brake in a straight line, which is right about here. There's that. So we're braking in a straight line through here. Clipping this first apex, decelerating through it. That's the key part. Don't be at your slowest out here. Be at your slowest out here. If you end up a little deeper than what this racing line shows, that's okay. That's still good. Wait for the car to turn. I'm trying to get the car to be at its slowest at about 68, 69 miles per hour. I use 2nd per our friend SMF. I think if you do a little bit of 1st for that little extra kick of rotation, that's not a bad plan either, okay? And once you see the car is turned, get back up to 3rd, exit, accelerate through this one. So you're decelerating through this apex, accelerating through this apex. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like on the actual track. We're on the brakes here, down to 2nd from 3rd, getting the car to rotate, back up to 3rd, on the throttle, kicking it out like this. Okay. No braking required in this part right here. You definitely want to take your momentum so that it goes all the way out here. I use a little bit of 2nd gear sometimes to get some extra rotation. I'm really trying to exit in 3rd here and clip that 2nd apex. Okay, final turn. This one was bugging the tar out of me, okay? And really, even in my best lap, the 31.9, I didn't do this as well as I could have. It probably would have been a 31.8, maybe even a high 7. Don't know. We'll never know for sure, I guess. But let's look at the racing line that's going to help us on this one. So this is what we're going for here, okay, friends? So we're coming from over here, and we dive in 4th gear, and we're beginning to decelerate. We shift down to 3rd. We're using some braking. And I want us to decelerate all the way through this part, use second gear, then at the middle of the corner right here, you should be in about, let's call it between 80 and 84 miles per hour. The best in the world, he did it in 86. The key is to stay tight. If you end up using too much brake, there's going to be understeer and you're going to end up way out here, and that's just time wasted. So that's what we're trying to avoid in this situation. So stay tight, use second gear to stay tight, get at your slowest mid-corner, 80 to 84 miles per hour, punch it. The car makes it. Exit in third. And then you're going to clobber through this, and then you'll hit the other apex, which is over there. So we'll just look at this just like this. Fourth, down to third, down to second. This is where you may end up going too wide, so try and keep it tight. Once you see, I've been looking for that Marshall box in the distance and the orange painted part of the barrier. Once my car's pointed in between those, that's when I punch it. I might clip some of this apex, but I definitely am going to clobber this one here. And that is a lap guide at Autopolis. So for in race, if you're starting towards the front, and you have, you're coming at this first turn slower than usual, looks to me like your braking point's going to be right before the 50 board. You're probably only in 5th gear maximum, and so bang down those gears really fast down to second and get that car rotated nice and wide. Okay, carry good speed. Don't take it too slow, because you'll likely get hit in the back if you do that. So that would be my advice for turn 1 of lap 1 when you have that rolling start. Okay, so my braking marker then is just before this white line on the right side forms. That seemed to work really nicely. I liked it a lot just now. So go ahead and rock it through here, slam on the brakes, downshift all the way to first, and really critically, you want to be able to clip this first apex. If you haven't done that, you're in trouble. So you clip that one and just kind of, you're going to be off the brake. You're probably going to be off the brakes, then off the throttle. I feel like you just sort of fly in there, and that's how that works. All right, friends? And that is going to do it for this edition of Led's Lap Guides. Please give this video a like, and if you aren't a subscriber already, please become one so you can continue to get helpful videos like this one and stay up to date on all the live streams, shorts, and other videos we put out on a regular basis. We'll see you real soon, friends.